Ahsoka, Balance of Truth, Book 1, Chapter 31. Side, a seasoned leader, observed the situation with his crew, a team of skilled professionals. The target vessel was behaving erratically, its systems flickering on and off. Despite the garbled chatter, they remained focused, their expertise evident. We need to refine our system, Side mused. And what's Azar? Sir, she's steady on, no intermittence. I see, Prit. Thank you. Everyone, keep your eyes peeled for any anomaly. We need to be ready for anything, Side ordered. As the target vessel's systems normalized, he added, calculate trajectories and possible vectors for approach. Timing is crucial. D5 Mantis, approximate 30-second landing cycle. They know they are being monitored, so decant within 5 minutes, a tech officer sounded out. Excellent, Side said, turning to the holotable behind him. He turned his gaze back to the right screen while tapping the emitter control button and turned his head back to the table. A wavering blue static image of a human female in full naval dress awaited him. Captain Cheyenne, Alert Group 1 and Marshal staggered entry on my mark. Excellent, sir. Cheyenne responded in heavily accented basic. Muster 2, she said to someone off cam, and the entire image resolved into a view of the whole command deck on Side's end. The crew, united in their mission, followed Cheyenne's lead. Cheyenne fired off a volley of instructions to her crew, each member ready to play their part. Captains, you know your order. 5 minutes stagger. Fall on rear and support strike. Launch support fighters only as necessary. Stonewall priority 2. Captain's Side has the mark. She finished and returned her focus to Side. Side, his eye off cam, was concentrated on the far right screen of his command deck and waited patiently. Atmospheric in 5, 4, 3, 2. Pritkar was counting down. Side watched as the screen resolved from black to blue, then turned quickly to face the cam. Mark, and watched closely as the first of 5 accompanying images vanished from Cheyenne's table. Good work, all. Neat and clean. He nodded his thanks to Cheyenne and switched off the emitter. Check and mate, Mantis. He watched his crisp blue transition to a hazy gray, then darken to charcoal and finally black rimmed with red. Why in the stars would anyone want to come here, he said. Ahsoka had located the station, or what remained of it, on scanners as Kawani walked back into the cockpit. All set back there. Oh my. She lost track of her initial statement upon looking beyond the canopy. What a slag heap. Why would anyone want to come here? She said. Black rock extended in every direction, faceless and empty. Details and striations within were only exposed as they maneuvered closer to rivers of fast-flowing lava. Those details shaded varying hues of red. It looks like the planet is bleeding, she tried to describe her thoughts. Ahsoka had no counter-thought to add. She agreed. Not one of the more popular destinations. It has played an integral part in history and kept the Separatist droid builders busy during the Clone Wars, but it has turned into something else entirely now. What is it? Kawani asked, her finger extended. Beyond the rocky outcropping they were passing over, a flash of reddish lightning briefly revealed a towering structure to their left, and Ahsoka knew only too well what it was. She was unsure of its exact location and could not purposely avoid it, but it could never be unknown now that she knew it. She closed her eyes and sighed. It's Vader's fortress. That's no fortress, Zar interrupted Kawani's thoughts. Come again? She questioned. Look at the symmetry, the angles, and then look for the currents and flows as only you know how, he responded. It's a conduit. Kawani looked upon it again with the next arc flash of lightning and focused all her mind on the flows of the Force. It was there. All points in this world seemed to flow to it, the precise location she had ever seen from even their orbital location. It was a nexus to her. Although her subconscious argued that a nexus had a purpose, this did not seem to. She could explain it no other way, no matter how wild her brainstorming divined. What the hell is he doing here, she thought. I have no idea. but it is an accumulation of force energy, the likes of which I've yet to encounter, Kawani, Zara remarked. Ahsoka, you know what I mean, believe this is more than a mere fortress. But we also agree that we should not be here, Kawani said. Ahsoka did not respond immediately, as her attention was being pulled towards something else. She was unaware of the action and could not place its source, but she felt something familiar. The familiarity was beyond what was expected. She had admitted that she would probably be overwhelmed by emotion in this place and had, therefore, run herself through the mental practice of building the walls to withstand the impact emotion and feeling could have from a particular source. That source, as confirmed, was not on this planet. Here and now, this feeling had a different source, and the familiarity bothered her immensely. Huh? That was all she managed. Not important now. What's the plan? Kawani said as the foreboding structure passed out of view, her eyes unwillingly following it. We'll need to shake. She flayed her hands about wildly. Whoever is tracking. Buy us enough time to find what we're looking for, she added. I have an idea, Ahsoka said, her voice filled with determination. Kawani looked at her sideways. Isn't that usually followed up with, this is the only way? Ahsoka stared at the Mirialan for a long moment, wondering if that was the punchline or if one was still coming. Right, I'll vector in for the station platform while we'll jump off. Seriously, does everything have to be the hard way? Kawani interrupted. No offense, of course, she said, slapping Ahsoka in the arm. Okay, hop off. Does that sound better? We'll hop off under repulsors, then change vector, and program the ship to land back there, she said, casting her left thumb over her shoulder. I like it, mostly because I don't have a better one. I think it's reckless, Zar said. Kawani shrugged. We are quite open to suggestion. In the absence of nothing better, I'll just refrain from saying anything for a while, he responded. Kawani felt her wrist vibrate and looked down. Finally, she spoke. Ahsoka didn't miss the movement. What's that? She asked. Kawani smiled. Plan B. Then she flared her eyes momentarily, reducing them to slivers. She looked back toward the doorway, turned her head to look out the canopy, then again at the doorway, and finally back at Ahsoka. Make that plan C. And she excused herself quickly from the room, shouting, Get us to that station, Ahsoka. I'll be right back. Ahsoka could only toss her arms up and swivel back around to punch in the coordinates for the proposed flight plan. Kawani dropped to a knee from her all-out run to the bags she had accumulated aft of the main cabin. Sliding to a halt and snaring the straps to the bag of detonators, she placed them at various points throughout the main cabin, tossing a few onto vacant bunks in crew quarters, then slung 24 over her head in bandoliers. Tossing her head through the open strap of 2 more duffels filled to the brim with blasters, armor, slicing tools, med packs, and other items that were insufficiently nailed to the ground. She slid one of the helmets over her head and walked back into the cockpit after syncing the detonators to a single, distinctive ID and paired it with her comm. All set, sister. Her voice was heavily electronically modulated. Ahsoka spun around to stand but froze. Well, you certainly dressed the part. A bit much, though, don't you think? She began, walking toward Kawani. Better to have too much than not enough, she responded. Ahsoka moved past Kawani into the outer cabin and froze. Ani, tell me these aren't all thermal detonators, please? Kawani turned to stand at Ahsoka's side. Damn, I did all that? Every flat surface, and even some that weren't, had an accompanying silvery orb attached to it, flashing red at staggered intervals, basking the entire room in a wavering red glow. There's no time to change it. Let's go, Ahsoka said, heading for the ramp. Kawani was in step behind her, the transparent visor on her helmet fogging over. How does anyone see in these things? She whispered to herself. Ahsoka, grab those 2 bags on your way down, please. Ahsoka did as asked, then turned quickly and reached out to toggle the activator for the helmet on Kawani's head. Better? She asked. Much, said Kawani immediately. The fog disappeared instantly, and the HUD system came online, briefly blinding her. She took the helmet off. We'll figure that out later, I think, she thought. Good plan, Zar chimed in. When Kawani reached the cargo bay, the ramp was already decanting, and she could feel the intense heat wash over her like an oven. This place sucks, she said as she and Ahsoka hopped off the ramp and onto the uneven, extremely porous stone. She turned to watch as the ship was already speeding away, almost in the direct opposite direction it had come. I'm gonna miss that ship. Side raised a hand to silence the apparent update to everyone watching the screen before them. He raised a slender hand to his stubbled chin and let play out all the scenarios his mind could conjure. I can see what is happening. Our job is why. 07. Is IR even possible here? Possible, yes. It will take several minutes to recalibrate, however, to remove the obvious distortion, came the digitized response. Get to work then, Side commanded. He had maintained control and worked every avenue he could think of, as were his crew. Single trajectory and reversion suggest nothing relevant at vector point. A ruse, sir? Pritkar spoke up. Is there anything at that location? That would be the more logical question to ask, Prit, but your point is taken. What do we have planetside? A grinning young human raised his hand at a smaller version of Side's holotable. He swung the emitter toward the center of the command deck and inserted his code cylinder into the device. It brought to life a digital Mustafar with various red dots at odd intervals. He removed a datapad from the side of the device and walked up to the image flickering before everyone. Tapping away on keys he wasn't even looking at brought various portions of the planet into focus, as he pointed out indigenous settlements near Vector 1 and 3 different areas labeled Installation only. A few more taps brought the Installation 1 into finer focus. The wreckage was represented well. It was nothing more than ruins, but it provided some details through a severely damaged tunnel system. Further probing finds those tunnels connect all 3 locations marked as such, the young man said. Nice work, Ensign. These look to be nothing more than ruins. Any idea what they were at one point before falling into disuse? Side asked. Data suggest managed stations for slag runoff or perimeter stations for suspension fields, the ensign said. That would explain the tunnels, Side confided. Relevance, then? Near zero, sir. That same data also suggests they haven't had routed power in over 20 years, Pritkar said. Any records regarding why it is in its current state? Several members of the crew turned their heads in his direction. Sir? He heard from somewhere in the room and immediately regretted the question. He didn't know something they did. 7, you got this one? Bev asked. Gladly, Lieutenant, came the electronic words. Sir, this is the site of a majestic duel between Jedi Anakin Skywalker and Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi very late in the Clone Wars. Sorry, relevance? And how is this known? Side said, bewildered as he heard a few snickers of laughter. Veritable droid lore, sir. As for relevance, they managed to destroy the entire process facility in the southern hemisphere, sending more than 70% of it into meltdown, 07 replied. Droid lore? What am I missing here? We have our network of information, sir. The droid Gatra, for instance. Okay, point taken, Side conceded, his arms raised in the air. Let's focus on indigenous settlements then. Sir, look! Pritkar shouted, arms flailing as he followed the projected path of the target. Vector 2, it's headed right for his fortress. Both hands clapped loudly against his forehead. Oh no, thought Side. Get Captain Hung on the comm immediately. He's already here, Bev said, patching the IGV into the bridge of the Tagada Tai, the ship decanting as arranged from hyperspace within range of mid-orbital bombardment. Go, sir, he said. She said after receiving the affirmation of the signal linked to the Acclamator-class Star Destroyer. Captain, do not fire. Repeat, do not fire on the target. Vector 2 is restricted, Side all but screamed into the air. A frantic second passed before both side monitoring screens on his command deck distorted their respective images, flashed statics across themselves, and closed off the connection altogether. Flashing signal lost in unison. Sir, Zero 07 broke the tension. IR recalibration halted. Scopes are dead. So am I, thought Side. That wasn't us, Captain, came a voice over the comm. Someone beat us to it, asked Captain Hung. Negative, Captain, Side responded, wishing he knew. Priority 1 attained in any event. Proceed to Priority 2. Without hesitation, the ensign at the command deck, holo emitter, snapped into existence, a planetary view with green dots depicting friendly vessels. All present watching the Tagada Tai maneuver to its predetermined location. Bev? Already on it, sir. She was a storm of key tapping as she alerted the entirety of the battle group to the update in priority. Thank you. Please patch me into comms. Same channel, Side said, blowing out a breath. All yours, sir. Silent we run, he began. You all have your orders and have been updated. This blockade must hold at all costs. No one leaves, and no one, absolutely no one, gets on this planet. He paused and breathed again. This includes the Imperial Navy. He heard the expectant intakes of breath from several members of his own crew, but not a soul questioned the orders. Tagadataya acknowledges. Sempra too acknowledges. Cyrilka acknowledges. Clairvoyant acknowledges. Motsuk acknowledges. Othello acknowledges. Harrell acknowledges. Brukal acknowledges. Ifira acknowledges. Everyone on Side's command deck stood at attention, and more than a few were shedding tears as the appropriate captain of each vessel reported, their crews standing in identical poses they knew. It wasn't the largest fleet in the Imperial Navy, but they weren't in the Imperial Navy. They reported to only one individual. Sidious acknowledges, Side said boldly, and knew without doubt that every member present, or otherwise, of the vessel was just as proud as he was. Please consider a like and sub. It is YouTube's way of getting these to more people. I am less concerned with subs as I am with getting the story out there, and I need your help to do that. Thank you.